Theo will continue the alternate future of the world series. And while Germany, who's become really strong after taking out what was left of the world, thought they did it, but now they're having protests and revolts in key areas such as France, northern Italy, Slavic areas, Romania, and Russia, and even Greece. Yeah, they're in not a great situation. So they end up with a revolt breaking out. The first revolt yet. They haven't dealt with one yet since this massive expansion. Well, where's it start, you may ask? Well, where do you think? Well, yeah. A Russian revolt. Take small areas. Now, some over here, with them expanding quickly. And mostly the Russian area. And they managed to take some key areas over, creating a revolt. Well, and some of them they managed to push them back over here and push all their ones here back. And they think they're doing a good job as they march to key areas. Now, with all the Slavic nation nationalists unifying to create the Slavic Liberation Front, well, with forces distracted away from here, they managed to quickly take a big chunk of land. The forces aren't distracted forever, and they managed to push them back a bit. But you might think this is good for them. They're not going to lose this to revolt. Well, it gets worse. Here it ends up in revolt. Well, we have a French revolt. Well, it's this color. Well, the France revolt. Now, somebody does have a good color eventually, and it's this nation. The Greek rebels quickly occupy big chunks of land. Well, now to get ready to make these nations so we can make the thumbnail. There is an open revolt. There's a lot happening now, with the biggest rebels being the rebels over here. And these are the most well-equipped rebels, as they quickly advance into areas that are freezing. As they think if they can advance fast enough, they will push forces back, which they end up doing. But although they don't get too far, and well, they now move into what would be Ukraine. Well, as you can see, this does not look good for them. With the Slavic nation, which isn't going to be united after, with them occupying this while the Slavic area occupies a bunch. Well, what that nation there sees is that eventually they're going to weaken. That's what they're eyeing. With not long after this French rebel group, France joins them. Not joins them, joins their side. And well, through this, they make an offensive meeting with Italian rebels, and then they move up here, with Italy seeing this as a good idea to join their rebels. Now Germany's at war with nations. It's not going to end well. Well, you might think, yeah, that's the worst it can get. Well, no. A new front is created, which includes this nation, which is the Arabian Empire, basically. Yeah, they're not going to win this no matter what happens. They managed to quickly take Crimea before the rebels could, and they start moving in to these lands to occupy them. This might be a bit lighter than the rest. Well, not a big deal, as the Red forces managed to launch an offensive into Eastern Europe. The Germans, seeing they might have a chance in these smaller rebels, realize they should probably come to peace with these two nations. So that's exactly what they do. So let's see what happens. Success happening, which makes them think it's not a big deal. But the forces over here keep in touch with the other groups in the region, such as Poles, Hungarians, and, well, yeah. Which, in a few areas, the rebels, these Slavic rebels, such as Warsaw and Kaliningrad, managed to take stuff, and same with Ukraine rebels. We also have the Hungarian rebels and such, and Czech rebels. So let's continue. Yeah, I need to color these ones in because they're not the right color. With all of this rebellion going on across the country, it gives the rebels an advantage. That's a lot further south than Hungary should be. Now, seeing these as risks to their supply lines, they managed to try to start taking some out. But these rebels over here are full of Eastern Europeans. Yeah, not great. The more they try to deal with these small revolts, the worse it gets for them. And then Romanian revolts. Yeah, we got Romania. The nations here being ready to negotiate whenever. With them advancing a bit further to about here. Well, they come to an agreement over occupying these lands as long as they give an escape to these forces in case they get surrounded. Well, eventually they have the retreat. Of all these encircled forces, they have to go against, yes, as they make their own encirclement, but it's one of the rebel groups and they don't give up. Now, a second Polish rebellion happened. This time, as it's happening, the German nation's still fighting them all, along with these Serbian, Croatian, Slavic rebels to the south. Well, the front starts moving, with them moving against Ukrainian rebels, but failing miserably, same with all the other rebel groups. But, as this is happening, Ukraine starts getting liberated, yes. Slavic rebels are struggling to advance, being held back well. But the Polish rebellion meets the coast and manages to link up with these forces, leading to a slow retreat. Well, they agree to peace at this point with everyone. So let's see what it looks like after the peace treaty. Well, just because this is easier to look at, not for any other reason. Now we're ready for the peace treaty. all of their eastern territories, with a Russian Republic having returned. Yes, we got the Russian Republic. And we got whatever that was supposed to be divided. But yeah, that is. But they also lost Polish land. Yeah. All of this land. Do not select all, that'd be too soon. With the Arabic nation gaining all the Caucasus and Crimea and a corridor to it, with them gaining lots of land in Russia that's kind of useless, I guess. Well, all these groups are expecting something. Not to be conquered again, but who's to stop this nation? They kept a big chunk of their territory, though. Now for them, yeah. Now to partition them. Bosnia. We also got Serbia, Bulgaria, yeah. Bulgaria's back. And now these two nations are starting to raise tensions. Maybe something will happen between them in the next two. With them deciding to try a new way of getting it. More land, instead of what they were doing, since it caused flooding, they decide to make a massive lake and see what happens. They dig a massive hole first. And they only manage to get back this much land. But still, they're testing different ways of doing it out. And well, it worked pretty well. Building an artificial lake. It's creating lots of water. Where the water isn't frozen. I'm sure there won't be any wars over that. Well, this nation decides to annex to Bulgaria. Yes. I'm sure they won't have to deal with any revolts. Well, that nation is their enemy. This nation's their enemy, and that's also their enemy. That's a friendly nation. That's not likely to attack them, but not necessarily close. And then these two nations despise each other. This nation doesn't like that nation, so and forth. These two don't like each other, chances are. And everywhere here is peaceful, because they're all owned by the same place. And well, that's pretty much all for today's video. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Wild Mapper out, but not until you subscribe.